Welcome to the webinar. My name is Alex Gorman. I'll be walking you through our voter lists online and voter manager systems, talking a little bit how you can use our software to both acquire the data for your district or your region and manipulate that data to really pursue the voters you want to go after. So as I'm going through this, feel free to have gone through most of the details. I might try to grab that out, but for the most part, I'll answer your questions at the end. What we're looking at here is the homepage for our voter lists online system. The nice thing about voter lists online is that you can actually log in and create an account anytime. You don't have to actually pay us any money to set that up, so you can get in and start looking at your lists and manipulating, your queries and figuring out exactly what you want to go after without any commitment up front. But I'm going to give you a quick overview of how you go through the system and pull out your data. So from the home page, you select to build a new query. And what you've got when you build a new query is you get this page. Now, you are going to select a state that you're in. So, I've just randomly chosen Illinois here. But you didn't initially sign up to see the data for a given state. You would then, once you're in here, pick how you want to break that information down. You'll note that we've got a whole wide variety of things you can choose to break your data down by. Most people start by jurisdiction, particularly if you're working with a particular campaign. I'm going to go ahead and click that to open up the jurisdictions. You can see we can do it by, these are all the existing 2010 congressional districts. You've also got the same for state senate districts, lower house districts. You just select one, and it'll bring, it'll be calling up that district. You can also do things, as you can see, by counties, and you can even go down to the precinct level. If you just want to call up a particular precinct, I'm going to pull this up real quick. So you can see, you can look by county, ward. It'll tell you the count in a given county. So here in Cook County, we've got 16. But you can see you can break down the precincts very, very precisely. You can also do it by zip code. And then you'll note down here at the bottom we've got our redistricting maps as well. Now, that's what data we have is going to vary by state, and it will probably vary from time to time. These are the official districts in Illinois, for example, right now, but there is, I believe, a federal court challenge to these districts. So whether they'll be the districts in a couple months is up in the air, and that actually highlights one of the advantages to the VLO system, the voter list online system, because when that district data changes, we'll be able to actually take that map information and have the new districts up for you within a couple days. So you could come in here and take a look at your, for example, maybe you're looking for a state senate district. You could look at that today. If something changes in the court challenge or whatever may happen, you can come in here and get your data updated within a few days of that happening. I'm just going to pick one of our existing districts, so picking number 11 here at random and opening that up. And actually, I'm going to remove some of the other things I did here. So what I've got here is I'm only looking for data within this particular district, so State Senate District 11 in Illinois. You'll note we automatically remove people who have moved. We're running it through the NCOA database, National Change of Address database, and regularly, as well as running it through the Social Security Administration to remove people who have been deceased. So both of these tags are put on here automatically so that you don't get anyone that obviously wouldn't be a voter in your district anymore. In a lot of places, we can do things by party. So in this case, lot of states you can actually see the specific party if they register that way. In places like Illinois, Texas, a lot of other places, they'll register for they'll register their party affiliation by what ballot they choose in the primary process. So we would go to vote history, and you can see we've got our primaries and general elections. So you can choose, I want just people who voted in the Democratic primary or the Republican primary in any of these elections. Now you note that as you go back through the elections, you can choose, I want to see 3 of the last, the last 4 elections, I want people who voted in at least 3 of those. You would go here and you'd say at least 3, and then you'd be taking people who voted in at least 3 of these 4 elections. And there's some other things you can do to get really complex with it. I'm not going to get into that today, but know that you've got the tools there to really drill down on your data. In most cases, people want to get a larger subset of their data and want to pull out the actual full list and then manipulate it, which is something you can also do with Voter Manager. So I'm just going to cancel that for now. Now, once you've selected your list, and in this case, I'm just going to say let's pull out this whole district. You can hit the recalculate button, but actually first, you'll notice over here we've got unique voters, unique phone numbers, unique households. So we can actually see exactly the demographics of the list we're pulling out. So when I hit recalculate here, it'll go ahead and think about this for a second. And it's going to go through and pull the criteria that we selected. In this case, it was pretty simple, so it's pretty quick. There are 117,000 just over in the district. We have 52,000, almost 53,000 phone numbers, and just over 79,000 unique households within that district. If this is the district you're looking for, you just hit the checkout button, and it takes you through the process of acquiring that list. A standard list like this, we typically charge 3 cents a record for, if you're just buying the data. If you're using us for pulling out the to pull out the data and manipulate it with Voter Manager, which I'm going to get to in just a second, usually we bundle the cost into the software price. So in terms of, there are additional things that we can do for additional costs. We have something called micro-targeting. And I'll click on this. I'm just going to point this out to you. You can go ahead and explore this. All of these things have additional costs to them, and it depends on exactly what you're trying to do. But you'll notice you can see you can see just people who make a certain amount of money, just people with a certain education level. Are these people homeowners? We've got some magazine subscriptions and things like that that you can look through. Different states have different regulations and different levels of information that we can provide, but that information is there, and you can come explore it in the system whenever you like. Now, what a lot of our clients do is when they've got their data, after they've pulled this list, they can go through and pull the information out and put it into our Voter Manager system. Now, that's actually something we'd have to do for you, but we would set up a Voter Manager account. We would take these 117,000 voters, or whatever target you were actually pursuing, and we would put it into this system, our Voter Manager system, which is specifically designed to help manage lists. Now, actually, you can use this system whether you're pulling lists from our Vote VLO system, whether you're getting them straight from a county registrar, wherever you might put. We can do it here. We typically recommend people use our data just because we do so much effort, go through so much effort to clean it up and make sure it's accurate. And the counties and other organizations often don't do that. But what you've got here is the dashboard for the system, or we're letting you know what things you've added lately to this, features we've added lately to our software. And you've got something over here called follow-up meeting reminders. These are things you record for yourself, so each user, and you can have as many users as you want on the system, would go in and create their own follow-up. So in this case, we wanted to call back Mr. David Freeman. I've already got his tab open here, but that would open up when you clicked on his name. And this is where we keep all the information. So we pull all the information from our Voter VLO system and put it in here, where you've got an easy way to manage it as opposed to putting it in a spreadsheet or trying to parse it in another way. You easily see, okay, here's David Freeman. Here's his contact information we have. Here's all the voter information that we pulled from VLO or whatever source it is. You can see his party identification, his precinct number, registration dates, and things like that, as well as his voter history. So when he voted in these elections, did not vote here. The level of detail we can provide here depends on the information we get from the state. A lot of times we can see people who, whether they voted absentee, whether they voted by mail, things like that will show up here as well. You can also, one of the things that you can apply to this, to Voter Manager, is your own codes. So these are things that users would create for themselves. So we've tagged him as a high propensity voter, noted that his house has a dog, that he supports our candidate, and that he wants a yard sign. These are just examples of things that you might add to the system. But they allow you to customize your data and, in addition, reapply data after you've talked to people. Where you might acquire a list from VLO and just send out a mailing or something like that. This allows you to really customize the data, go out, talk to people, put information back into the system. And that actually relates to our communications system here as well, which allows you to have a communications history with that individual. So when did we talk to him? What did we talk to him about? You'll notice we did precinct walk, spoke with him and left literature. We sent him one of our mailings to our high propensity voters. These are all just examples, again, of things you can do. You can customize these however you want. You can use them to whatever level of detail is required on your campaign. One of the things that I like to show people at this point is how you can use the system to really target your data and pull out lists of individuals based on whatever criteria you want. A lot of the same things that you can do in VLO, but instead of just acquiring a small list, you can take your entire list and then mine it repeatedly for whatever you're looking for. So we might be looking for people in a given precinct. So I would start here in the voter information under table, which shows all the broad categories that we have to choose from. I'm going to go to voter information and select my precinct. You'll notice we can choose the precinct from a drop-down menu. These are all the precincts in the database. And this would apply to wards or whatever other geographic breakdown you might have. Or we can choose to start with, I want every precinct that starts with 930 or something like that. In this case, I'm just going to select the precinct from a drop-down and select one at random and add it. You'll notice that it puts that item down here in our query details, and it clears out the query builder so that we can go back up and add additional elements to the query. So if we wanted to add maybe voter history. I wanted every voter that voted in a particular election or that had voted in 3 of the last 4 elections, like I showed you before. So let's just choose one of these, maybe the 2004 presidential election, and I'm going to use the subquery to indicate that this person voted. So it's not every person in this precinct that voted in 2004. Or I could choose everyone that did not vote in that election. Or I could make it more complex. So you could actually say voted in, you could put this together so that you would choose 3 elections, and they want people who voted in at least 3 of those by selecting the total votes cast across those. So that some of these things are putting these queries together can be complex, and that's where our service and support team comes in handy, because they'll come in and talk through exactly how you want to pull out your list and call us anytime, and we'll actually walk you through one of these. I'm just going to go ahead and select this particular precinct, and I'm going to ignore everything else I did there with the voters. And at that point, I come down to my export options. Now, you can do a lot more than just pulling out walk lists. You can do broadcast emails through this system. You can export things out to an Excel file if you are doing mailings and things like that. You can there's a whole bunch of different lists, and you can also add data back in. But for now, I'm just going to show the walk list and submit the query, and it should bring up a new window for me that has the walk list in it. Now you notice this is done. I'm going to just bring this up so it's a little easier to see. You'll note that this has a street. So this is 54th Street, the odd side of the road, and as we go down the road, we see every person that is in this precinct. So we can see, and these are customizable, so you don't have to have this the same way. We'll customize a walk sheet for you that shows you exactly what you want to see. But you'll see this person's party, their their age is on here as well, if we can gather that information, and then also when they voted. So this person's voted for 1 of 4 primaries, 2 of 3 generals in our data. And as we go to the next page, you'll see we've got, here's the even side of the street, only one side there, and here's another street. So each street has, each page is a street, and you go door to door, and you've got all your information on those people. And again, we can customize that information so that it matches what you're looking for, so that you're gathering the data you're looking for. And one thing we can add to that is actually barcodes, so that when your walkers are out going door to door, you can actually have a barcode as they're collecting data. They come back and you can just scan the barcode and scan the items that need to be added to that person's record. I'll show you just quickly how that works. We've got the barcode scanner entry tool. So you would just have a scanner, which you could get at any electronics store, and you'd scan the person's name, that would appear here, and then you'd scan whatever codes and communications you wanted to add to them. Do you want to know that this person is a supporter? You would scan that. Do you want to know if this person's really interested in taxes or free speech or any issue you could possibly think of? You could scan that, and it would come up as on these items and add them directly to that person's record. A couple other things about the voter manager system that I wanted to point out. Under system, as I mentioned, you can have access to users. You can have as many users as you want. We've got a contentious database obviously here. But every user, you can actually control specifically what they can do. So Abe here has full access to everything in our database. Basically down the side we have the different sections, and across the top we have how much access he has to each of those. So he can go from having no access to being able just to view things, to being able just to add things, and being able to edit, which means he can delete information that's in your database. So if you have a volunteer that you want them to come in and print walk sheets or do simple data entry, you can give them the appropriate information without giving them access to the sections you don't want them to have. And you can control their administrative access. Can they do things like send broadcast communications, so send emails through the system? Probably don't want to give everyone that kind of access. And there are a whole suite of other tools that, with our documentation, so you can help. You can also send contact directly support through the system. We have a calendar tool, which allows you to keep track of events on the system. So it's just sort of a place where you can come in and get a lot of information about your data. That's really the quick overview of the system. I wanted to give people a chance to ask some questions. It looks like we've got a couple here already. Looks like someone asked one to make sure they please. Oh, well, there we can see it. So the question is, what sources is the voter data cross-referenced with to validate or enhance the record? I presume we're talking about in VLO at this juncture. We do run our data, as mentioned, through the NCOA and the Social Security Administration databases to keep track of all the people who've moved or who are deceased. That's the primary thing we do to validate. We have a number of other sources that we work with. I'm not exactly sure what the sources are. If you're talking about our micro-targeting, we do have a number of sources that we use to pull us in a lot of different databases that we work with to specifically cross-reference the people who are in your database. And we'd only be pulling up the ones that match. So when you add micro-targeting like what people's household income is or what records what magazines they subscribe to and things like that, it's going to be a mixed bag in terms of whether you're going to get everybody. You won't get everybody, but you'll get everyone that matches that criteria. I believe we can provide data in most states. That's actually a good question. I probably should have the answer to that. This is the question of which states are currently available or which states are not available. There's a couple states where it's very difficult to get data. I should have that off the top of my head, but I'm going to have to, I will contact you back and answer that question. But in almost all states, all 50 states, in almost all 50 states we can provide information. We have extensive data. We collect the data from around the country on a regular basis. We go through and compile that data and then are regularly running it through our system. So there's a couple states where it's difficult to get the voter data. It's not provided, but even in places like that, we've sometimes managed to get the information for you. We've got a question about missing the beginning of the webinar. I'm not sure if it's being recorded. Let me find that out. Yes, it is. So to Jessica, who missed the beginning of the webinar, yes, it's being recorded, and you should be able to watch it again later. We have any other questions about our voter manager system or VLO systems? I want to make sure that everyone has a good understanding of it. And I strongly recommend that you go in and try out particularly the VLO system for yourself, because there's a lot of things that you can do on your own, just experimenting. You can go in and get your own account. We do have to validate it, because you'll sign up for it, and then you'll pick the states you want to access, and then we'll validate you and confirm that you're going to comply with all the regulations and things. And yes, generally we're running it through the systems like NCOA and the Social Security Administration on about a monthly basis, yes. Now, updating the records from different states is a much more complicated system, because we can't necessarily go and get every state every month, but we do it regularly, particularly after elections. We try to get update all the states, but it's a time-consuming process because there's different regulations in each state in terms of what we can get, what the process is. So we try to update the data as often as we can, and then we do run it through our NCOA and deceased database regularly. In terms of, I have a question about importing the data from VLO to Voter Manager. We would have to do that for you, but that would also be part of setting up the Voter Manager account. So you would contact us and actually tell us what you wanted, and we would handle all of the pulling of the data and putting it into the system. That would be included in the setup. I hope that answers Don's question. Let me know if you have any other questions at all. They're both systems are very robust. You can do quite a bit with them, but we can also walk you through if anyone is interested in seeing more specifics about these things. We can also walk you through a demo of either product on a more one-on-one basis. Particularly, the Voter Manager system has quite a bit in it that we could show you. I'll just point out that we have some other reports. I didn't mention these, but you can also do a lot of reports. Someone's interested in seeing distributed campaigns. Actually, I'll just jump to that. I can show you that. I'm going to go ahead and point out this feature while I'm doing that. We have this tool called Saving Your Query. So basically, you can build a very complicated query. Like, for example, I'm going to pull up the HPV walk here, which is a complicated query involving everyone in this precinct who voted in 3 of these 4 elections. And then you don't have to rebuild that every time. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to go in and change this precinct to the next one, you just do that at the push of a button. Now, someone asked about distributed campaigns. I'm just going to show that very quickly. This is essentially a tool that allows people who are outside of your main office, maybe volunteers, supporters, or even people who are in your office, to access a survey that they could go ahead and then make calls. I'm going to go ahead and just actually preview this so you can sort of see what it would look like. So what would happen is, open up so the person would log in. We've got this obviously simplified, and then they would get a person from your query. So using the data that you had queried, the precinct and the people who voted in those elections, you would pull up a random person from that list, give them their contact information, and they would call them and ask them whatever questions you wanted them to. So in this case, you plan to vote for Abe Lincoln or Stephen Douglas in the upcoming election. You'd select the one you wanted. If they're supporting Lincoln, you then ask them, will you contribute, will you put up a yard sign? And you then hit save and next, and you get another person. If the person's not available, you can note that in the system. If their contact information is wrong, you can note that in the system. So people who are unavailable will stay in for the next person to come in and do this. And this is something people can do from your home, from their homes. You need to construct these, but once you've got it put together, you can have as many people log in and do whatever they need as you want. And they can just constantly save the information and go to the next person. So that's, again, this is something that our support team can help walk you through and show you how to use, but it can be a powerful tool for really bringing your supporters on and actually having them engaging them with other voters and really really pushing, using the momentum that they give your campaign. These questions are completely customized. These are in no way fixed. These are just examples. I had a question about pulling a voter list and adding the database. Yes, we'll automatically deduplicate. If you, I'm not sure if you're talking about pulling it into an existing database that you have, but typically there are two ways that runs. Typically we have another product called Back Office where sometimes campaigns will have their house data, not necessarily their voter data. You can we typically separate the voter data. So when new voter data comes in, we're going to keep all the information you've got and just append to those records the new information, if there is new information. Add new records, remove people who are no longer in the system. So it's deduplicating is a fairly easy process. It's a fairly easy process because we have the voter ID numbers, and so we can always match the information directly to the same voter ID number, and that's how we go about doing that. So deduplication is sort of included in there. It sounds like we have somebody who has the back office system. Voter Manager is a separate application. They're designed for different functions. Back office is we'll do a webinar on that another day, but is designed for really keeping track of your volunteers, a lot of supporters, and all of your fundraising, and in most cases can handle all the back-end compliance as well. That Voter Manager tends to be a more seasonal product that people are using to keep track of this voter list. When they really want to keep track of who their voters are, get out there, start really energizing them. The Voter Manager system helps you use those lists. So it is a different product, but we'd happily walk you through that. And we frequently give a discount if you're using both systems. Does anyone have any other questions? Happy to, oh, here's one more. So someone asked about volunteers. So that is one of the things about the distributed campaign. So people typically using distributed campaign are people outside of your office. So if they did receive additional contact information or additional information, they would have to record that separately. So these are people that you're not giving direct access to your database. This is to be differentiated from people maybe who are closer to the campaign and working directly in the campaign, that you want to give an actual login to the database. So if you did want to have people providing information like email addresses and updating information to the records, distributed campaigning might not be your best option. It's more for engaging the people that are your supporters, but maybe not directly working for the campaign on a regular basis. We do keep the back office and voter managers accounts separate. If you have a small enough, it's possible for us to merge them together, but a lot of the campaigns don't want us to do that. because they typically, particularly if you're running year after year, you have your back office database you want to keep separate, and the voter list tends to be much larger and much more temporary. You're not necessarily using it on a regular basis. So people don't necessarily want to merge all that data together. We do update the voter manager info. Usually, we typically set up how often we're going to update that, or how we're going to do that when we set up the terms of the agreement. So we can update the information in voter manager with new information from VLO. But again, we've sort of set up how we were going to go about doing that when we set that up. So I have a question about whether the updated information, including the 2002 redistricting information, contains info gathered in the 2010 census. The information we're gathering in VLO is typically information from the registrar. We cross-reference that against a lot of lists. Census data there's probably a lot of census data in there. But they're sort of separate lists, so I'm not sure how much information would be in there, to be honest. So I have a question here about, can we differentiate between newer and more accurate contact information if there are duplicate contact phone numbers and or addresses? Now, one thing we try to do, because we can add multiple addresses and phone numbers to the back office database, if we have a discrepancy, we always just add an additional record. So if you have added a phone number, for example, or you've added an address to your voter manager system, we're going to keep that. So we're not going to overwrite anything that you have added. But if we just have a new record coming in, we're going to use the new contact information for someone that you haven't contacted. Where and how do you pull the report for the distributed campaign information that's entered by a user? So you want to go see. So what are these? Just to clarify, you have these checkboxes are going to be added to each record as a code. So you can go in. I'm just going to close these up. So you can go in and select the same query, and you want to see. So I presume you'd be looking for people who have been updated. So now I'm trying to think about this properly. So okay, right. So you can actually set up a new query to see only the people that have had codes added. It's because you'd be setting up the times when people were going to do that. Codes that were created within the last day. So you could put in a date. A date range is equal to or greater than one. Let's see, what's the date today? I should actually have the answer in front of me. 8/31/2011. So you could add that to your query and adjust that. So you could have your supporters go out and do this, and then you could pull up just those people that have been changed in the last day. Actually, I want to make that equal to or greater than, and then you can actually pull that information up. What if there's bad contact information? How will we know to go back and correct it later? I believe you can do that, actually. To be honest, I don't spend a lot of time with the distributed campaigns. What I'm going to do is record your question and come back to that later, because I'm honestly not sure, but I believe we have a manager that allows you to go in and adjust that information, because you should be able to go back in and adjust the bad contact information. I typically don't jump into the distributed campaigns because I don't spend a lot of time using it, but I'm going to figure out that and get back to you with an answer to that. Are there any other questions? And you're welcome. Like I said, we're always available to do additional demos of the software if you're interested in seeing more. That's what my sales staff is here for, so if you want to take a look at what we have and see how it works, we're happy to walk you through it. You can always contact us as well if you have additional questions. As I mentioned, you'll be able to see this. We're recording this, and you'll be able to see it later. Let me know if I can provide you with any additional information. And I want to thank everyone for spending some time with us today. And okay.